first thing you're going to see if you want to come in here is your basic. I think the three of you guys are going to be shooting with possibility of probably 3 cameras. You're going to have your DSLR, GoPros, or a cell phone. And we'll go over a little bit about how to shoot with each. So your DSLR, you're going to have your lens options, which is going to be the biggest thing. So this one, the wide lens, is 16-35, and what you got to look at when you're shooting with that is your aperture. So on top of the lens, they usually say a 1 to a number ratio. That's 1 to 2.8. So your max aperture is going to be 2.8. On here, 1 to 4. So your max aperture is f4. Now what aperture does is your main point of focus, so your focus field. So if you have a 2.8, that's a small number, it's a large aperture. Basically your aperture, the depth of field is going to get bigger or smaller. So 2.8 is going to be tiny, and then f4 is going to get bigger, f5.6 bigger, f8 bigger, and so on and so forth. So if you're shooting at your vehicle and you want to get just the taillight in focus, then you do an f2.8. If you want to get the entire vehicle and the obstacle in focus, you're going to go f8, f16, somewhere around there. So the next biggest thing is going to be your shutter speed. So when you're shooting, you're going to want your shutter speed should never be lower than the zoom that you are shooting at. Let me explain. So if you are shooting at, so I've got a 16-35. If I'm all the way zoomed in and I'm at 35 millimeters, then I do not want my shutter speed to be below 1/35 of a second, which is really slow anyway. Usually, you're going to try and shoot your shutter speed around 1/100th or 1/250th of a second to give you enough time that you're not going to get any shake in your photo. If you're noticing you're getting shake because it's getting dark out and you have to change other settings to leave your shutter where it is, you're going to want to get a tripod. The tripod will give you the advantage of putting on a timer to where you can do a longer shutter speed photo and not have the effects of the shutter of the blurry photo. So the next biggest thing you're going to look at when you're looking at lenses to pick for your camera is what size the lens is. So again, 16-35, that's a wide angle lens. So if you are on a tight trail where you can't step back to get whole vehicle and obstacle, which we need to for our photos, you're going to want to go with a 16-35. That'll get you a nice wide photo. Your eyes, they say your eyes see it at 35 millimeters. So if you can see it in your eyes and you kind of crop down on the top and bottom when you're looking, that'd be about a 35. So if you need to see more, it's like step back and you have that opportunity, then you can go for a deeper lens. This is a 24-105. It's a good workhorse of a lens. You can really get, 24 is still rather wide, so you can get kind of wide and then kind of cut in. The other lens, you start getting the big behemoths. This is a 70-200, again at f2.8, so you have that good aperture. But I have to step back now because 70 is already pretty zoomed in and 200 is really zoomed in. But it gets for some cool effects. So if I were to shoot where we are right now, if you want to look out to the lake, I could go down here on the lakeside and then be over and shooting still where to show the Jeep and the campsite we're at. And that gives a cool effect with the different aperture you're shooting with, which is nice to have. So once you pick out your lens you're going to do, I always bring out all 3 just so if we have the opportunity to switch up lenses, it's nice to do. Then you're ready to shoot with the DSLR. The big 3 are your aperture, your shutter, and your ISO. Your ISO is the sensitivity to light. So if you have a low ISO, which is 100, you will get no grain in your photos, but it does not as sensitive to light. The higher your ISO goes, 200, 400, 800, those kind of numbers, your photos will get a little bit grainier in the blacks. It looks like an old film look, or like it looks like grain in the photo. But if you're darker outside, you can get the actual photo because you get more light in the photo. I always shoot at 100 unless I need to bump up, and then I bump up the least amount as possible because I don't want grain in my photo. So the triangle, which is right here, is the ISO, shutter, and aperture, and your perfect photo lives in the middle of there. Once you figure out your ISO, if it's a nice day out, 100, your shutter, remember, is going to be beneath what you're shooting at, so 1/250th, and then your aperture, which is that lets in more light the larger the aperture is versus the smaller it is, so 2.8 to f8. If you want more light in, you're going to go with a larger aperture, but remember the focus thing. So I'd say an f8 is a good place to start. with a shutter speed of 1/250th and an ISO of 100. For a regular sunny day, that's where you shoot from, and make adjustments as you need. That's the other big thing we're going to talk about. So on your camera, you're going to have settings. So the green box is always automatic. If you don't know what you're doing, or you just want to get the good photo in, put it on automatic, and you're going to be good to go. As you go through, every camera has different settings, but what they usually are you're going to have your priority mode, which you can adjust your shutter or your aperture, and the other one will adjust with it. You're going to have your TV mode, which is your shutter mode, so you adjust the shutter to what you need it to, and the aperture will adjust automatically for you. So if you want to do a long exposure or a really short exposure, you want to do that one. Your AV, which is your aperture mode, then you will set the aperture and the shutter will adjust for you automatically. If you know what you're doing, you'll eventually move into manual, where you have full control over everything the camera's doing, which is the main focus here. Then you move on and you get into GoPros or GoPro-like cameras. Still really great cameras. They work well, they're waterproof, drop-proof, you can throw them around. They're really easy, you can fit them in your pockets, you can have a couple on you, and the batteries last pretty long, which is good. So when you're shooting with a GoPro, everyone's main concern is that the GoPros are super wide. Now, on most GoPros and GoPro-like cameras, the Sonys, the knockoff GoPros, I forget what they're called, you have settings in the option menu. You go into the options, and then you go into where it says narrow. You can adjust wide, medium, or narrow. So if you go narrow, you're going to be a regular size photo. If you don't know what you're doing with that, and you want to know for sure what the camera looks like, you download the GoPro Hero app for the 3+s, the 4s, anything. On the 4s, you don't really need to, because it's got it already built in. So you can see on the back that that's a really wide photo, but I'm in wide. So I can go through into setup, into, let me get the touch screen. Let me do this again. With the GoPro 4, the screen's already built in. Now you can see that's a wide photo. So what you can do is go into video mode, video, and then you can set up the field of view to medium, linear. You have options: wide, medium, linear, or narrow. On most of the GoPros, you're gonna want to shoot narrow, unless, like, that's how, see how much closer it is? And then you can go into your wide shots, and you're getting the entire, that GoPro look. Again, if you don't have a GoPro 4, they make backing screens for the older GoPros, the 2s, the 3s, 3+s, things like that. Or you can download the GoPro Hero app on your cell phone, which is a great app. You can control everything from there. Now the other option most of you are probably shooting with is your cell phone. And the cell phone, all of the rules apply. It's just already on automatic for you. But what you can still do is you can play with picking your focus on most newer phones. If you touch the screen, it'll auto adjust to make that in focus and that well enough lit. If you want to spend a little extra money, you can get an app called Pro Camera, which basically turns your phone into a DSLR. You have all of the options, you have everything you need. You can adjust your exposure, you can adjust your ISO, and you can adjust your shutter speed. The main three. No matter which the cameras you're shooting with, the GoPro, the cell phone, the DSLR, there's a couple main principles of photography: composition, lighting, action, motion, leading lines, and your exposure. So your composition, which is rule of thirds, is going to be basically every photo you look at, draw a grid on, and you don't want the subject of your photo in the dead center of that picture. You want it off to the side, you want to give it room to move, and you want to make sure that it looks appeasing to the eye. So if you're taking a photo of your vehicle in the obstacle, don't make that the center of the photo, unless it's the entire photo. Another good technique is leading lines. So if you have the trail coming up and then your vehicle and the object, put it at an angle so the eyes will naturally follow the trail to the vehicle to the obstacle, and the obstacle back to the trail. And it makes for a really good photo when you have leading lines. Your lighting, which is obvious, goes with your exposure. That is all based off of your ISO, your shutter, and your aperture. Or in the GoPros, it's just where you point it at. So the main thing we're looking for in all of our photos, this photo I'm about to take is my trail end photo. So this is the campsite that you get to once you're done the trail. Now what you're looking for is a good angle to where you can see your vehicle, you can see the campsite, and you can see where the trail comes in, so you can mark all that off. So I'm gonna pick right here because the vehicle's kind of at an angle. You can see there's already a fire pit, which is great for other campers, and you can see the beachfront to what your view is gonna look like. So you can come in here, I'll show you the photo. So what you're gonna do is I'm in manual, so I'll take one in auto so we can see what it looks like. In auto, everything is full auto. You can't do anything except your zoom, and that's it. So you're gonna wanna shoot low, looking up. Find a good spot to zoom at. And that wants to do the flash for whatever reason. And take your photo. Again, not a bad photo. I'll show it here. All right, so now I'm gonna take my photo. And again, I shoot manual, but shoot whatever you're comfortable with. Don't feel the pressure to shoot manual if you're not gonna get a good photo. So I've got my angle, I've got the lighting, I've got everything I need to get a good photo. I'm gonna go ahead and put it into F8 so that it's not just the headlight in focus, or if I miss focus, it'll be the door in focus, or the hammock, or the fire pit. I want the entire scene in focus, so I'm at F8. So adjusting off of an F8, you're gonna change the shutter, which right now I'm at F100. I'm at F100, shooting at ISO 100. And on your camera, your settings are gonna be off the knob, so it's up to your camera, but play around with it and you'll figure it out. So take one or two photos and see what works, play with the settings a little bit. And then, because we need 3 photos at each spot, of each obstacle, of every waypoint, you're gonna move and you're gonna take another waypoint. So find something, walk around your vehicle, see what looks good, and then the same thing. Say all you have to shoot with is your phone. You can still get great photos with your phone as long as you understand the basics of photography. Again, get down at your angle and understand where you're shooting from. This is kind of a lot of dead space, so I'm gonna move in. On phones, you don't want to zoom in, you would rather move. Don't be a lazy photographer, use your feet, not your fingers. So you're gonna move in till you get a good photo. And on the cell phones, you can touch on the screen to where you want to be exposed. Most of the time, if you touch the sky, it'll make the foreground really dark. If you touch the foreground, it'll make the sky overexposed. So touch your vehicle, and it'll expose for the rest. Now get everything lined up, your leading lines, your rule of thirds. So come down a little bit, and take 1 or 2 photos. Make sure everything looks good, and then I'll show you how to edit on post. Say all you're using is the GoPro. You're using it for photo, you're using it for video, it works well, that's all you got, that's fine. Just make sure you're going in, because the GoPro look is a real wide look, and that's not gonna be good for us. So go in here and adjust it to, I'm gonna say medium. And again, that breaks you so you don't have that weird fisheye look. So if you don't have the back screen, you can take a couple and then look at them and then take a couple more. But either buy a back screen or download the GoPro app. The GoPro app will sync to your GoPro and you'll be able to look at it and you can see what the photo looks like before you take it if you don't have the back screen. This is the 4, so I have the back screen. So I'm gonna go with the same thing I was doing with the DSLR and with the iPhone, taking the same photo, making sure all my lines are good, the exposure's good, everything. And then take the photo. The GoPro's a lot easier, it does everything for you. Same with the cell phone. The DSLR, you have a lot more room to get the artsy-fartsy photos that we're going for on every now and then. But remember, those are only few and far between. Most of our photos we're getting are full vehicle with the trail, with your waypoint. And that's trail photography. Now we're gonna go into post-production. All right, guys, now we're back in post, back at the home station. So what you're gonna do first is go ahead and open up Lightroom or any of your photo editing platforms, but this video will be solely on Lightroom. Then you're gonna go into File, Import Photos and Video. And up here, it should say what your camera is. So wait for it to load up and then click, there's my 7D. And mine are grayed out because I've already imported them, but you can see where if you don't import selected, go ahead and click import. I'm gonna hit cancel because I've already done it. I like to go through and view them in order. So view, sort, capture time, make sure that's clicked, and then go into develop. Now in develop, you have full access on the right side to where you can adjust everything you need. So I'm gonna click the photo we took, and then go over, and in Lightroom you can see all of what you shot at. So go ahead and adjust the highlights to bring down your highlights, adjust your shadows again to bring up or down your shadows. Then your clarity, vibrance, saturation, exposure. You have full and total range of whatever you want to do in Lightroom. If you don't have it, I 100% suggest paying for Lightroom on the Adobe Creative Cloud. It's what we do every time we go out and shoot photos, so you might as well have an awesome platform to do it. So now that you have your photo the way you want it to look, go File, Export, and then you're going to want to save it in a folder where you can find it easily. So put it in subfolder, name it whatever your trail is. I think mine was 391, and then export, and it takes only a second because it's only one file. And then once your photos are all exported, your whole album is now made. You're going to close that and open up Photoshop. Again, if you have the Creative Cloud, all of these apps are already there. I think it's like $20 a month, and it's totally worth it. So I'll go ahead and close this, cancel, go File, Open, and you're going to want to open that folder you just created. I'm going to open a different one to show you how well this works. So I'm going to plug in my backup drive. Wait for it to load. There, Lacey. So click on that. I'm going to open up the folder as to where I saved all the photos from a previous trail. And this is how you're going to export all of your photos so that they're all under 3 megabytes. And it's easy to do, and you don't have to do every photo one at a time. So let's click a lot of photos. Yeah, we'll open up all of these. So you can see there's a lot of photos there. Open, give that a second to open all of the photos up. Cool, now that all those are open, we're gonna go ahead and make an action. And this same action you can use for any of your photos that you may upload on future trails. So if it's not already open, go into Window Actions and open up that. Mine's already open, so open up Actions. And it'll come up like this, and you're gonna go to here to File New Action. You can name it something like Save 3 megabytes or save in clothes, save in size, something you know what it's going to be, and then hit record. And now it's recording every action. So file, so image size, and then you can see my photo right now is 68 megabytes. That's way too big. So go ahead and drop down 4. We can go a little bigger. There you go, right under 3. So now that it's 2.75 megabytes, I'm going to hit OK, shrinking the photo down, and then save as. I'm going to save in the same folder here. Under a new, yeah, so I know where it is. Save under a new, same folder. You can save it wherever. I would recommend saving it in a different folder. That way you know which ones are your edit ones, and you can keep your big photos for whatever you want to later. Then hit save. Again, it's already there, so hit replace, OK, and close the photo out. And that is your action, so hit stop. And then you're going to go through, and you can do one at a time if you only have a couple photos. So then to do your batch, you're going to go into File, Automate Batch. And then you're going to go and make sure that your save 3 megabytes that we just created is the action that's selected. You can change the name here if you'd like to. Just hit OK. And it's going to run a batch automation on every file that's open. As soon as you hit OK, it's going to start saving. It's going to start resizing and saving all of your photos to that folder, whatever photo you selected. So you only have to hit two buttons, and now every single photo you took that day is getting resized and saved. And that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and any questions, feel free to hit me up on the forum at PeteKirby93. I think I'm gonna do a video on video next, and then go in more.